by the time this episode comes out, it will likely be 2024. And something that's really popular for people to do is to choose a word for the year. Some people love it, some people don't. But I would say the most common word that I've seen is present. Everybody says, I want to be present. I feel like that is so common. I've even said that so often. And my guest today is somebody who I think will actually be able to give you some practical strategies to actually make that happen, because a lot of times we just say that and we don't really know what that means, or we don't really know how to do that. And so we're going to hop into it today. Joey Odom, coolest name ever. Welcome to the show.
Hampton, good to see you. I don't know. Hampton Dort's pretty strong. That's pretty up there.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And everyone, he is the co-founder of Aro, not Arrow. But let's just, I called it Arrow a second ago, and I hate that I got it wrong. But can you tell me about Aro? What in the world is Aro?
Yeah, if it's okay, I'll start even before that. So my son, who's now 15, his name's Harrison. When Harrison was 5, Harrison was playing his very first soccer season. And Hampton, I know you're a new dad to Mary Collins, so this is coming up for you here in a couple of years. And so at the time, again, this is 10 years ago. So this is 2013, playing his first soccer season. And as we did every Saturday, my wife and I are sitting on the sidelines watching this game. Now, the thing with Harrison is, as great a kid as he is and was at the time, he was not the best soccer player. So everybody on the team had scored a goal this season except for Harrison. And so, we lug out the lawn chairs, we sit on the sidelines, and all of a sudden, Hampton, this magical moment arises. And I almost think back on this memory almost like it's a movie. It's like you can almost hear the cinematic music playing. It kind of goes into slow motion. Harrison rears back his leg. He kicks the ball. It goes end over end into the back of the goal. And everybody, coach, fans, everybody knows that Harrison had not scored a goal yet this season, but he scored this goal. And so everybody erupts. Everybody goes nuts. Coach comes out, lifts him up. And what does a 5-year-old boy do when he has a moment like this moment of pure elation? Of course, he looks over to me. And so Harrison and I have this just amazing, magical moment where he locks eyes with me. He sees that I'm proud of him. He sees the smile on my face. It's amazing, right? Except I missed it. I didn't see the moment I just described. And I've told the story close to 1,000 times, and I still get a little choked up about it when I think about it. I missed that moment where he turned to me. The goal happened. Everything else happened. He turned to me. The very first thing he did was turn to look at me, to lock eyes. And I was looking down at my phone. I missed this moment. And all I know, I think I still have the bruise on my ribs from my wife elbowing me and telling me what had happened. And I realized at that moment that something was wrong. Something was totally wrong. And when you think about presence, this whole notion of presence, we say, "Oh, I want to be present," but very largely we don't really want to be present. And you know why? Because the presence very often is really boring. Right.
Yeah.
And this, like, to just distill it down, there are a lot of other reasons. Maybe people are escaping other things that are negative, but ultimately for most of us, it's tedious, it's boring, it's monotonous, and we're missing it. But, and this game was a boring game. I know that sounds a little bit bizarre, but this game was a boring game. But if I would have stayed in the boring, if I would have stayed in the present, we would have had this moment. Harrison and I would have. So that was one of many, unfortunately, many times, many stories, many moments where I missed moments, or I missed conversations, or I didn't give my wife her, the proper attention and focus she needed in that moment. And so Heath Wilson, who's my co-founder, Heath texted me 5 years ago, and he said, "I have this idea, and let's sit and talk about it." And I was in commercial real estate. I was established in a career of 15 years at the time. And when Heath described to me this idea of, "Hey, I think that this reality we're living in now, where we're perpetually distracted by our phones, we're missing moments with our kids and our spouses, I think the world can look a little bit different." And that's where we began. We began with this idea, actually not even an idea yet, a belief that we could do something about this state of distraction we're in, where we're fleeing the present, we're fleeing those moments, and as a result, we're sabotaging our futures. So RO is a company. It's the first solution designed for families to help us put down our phones. And this is when I say the first. This is crazy to think. There's nothing else out there that is for the entire family to help us put down our phones and be present in the moment. I'll pause there. There's a bunch more, but that's the beginning point. I can tell you how we do it. I can tell you a little more of the ethos, but that's ultimately where it is. The mission is, how can we as a company go create an entire generation of intentional families by helping them put down their phones, by helping them be in the present, by helping them pursue the type of person that they want to be, by helping them build the type of family they want to build.
Wow. Well, I love that you started with that story. And a lot of times I tell the listeners, these podcasts just become personal counseling sessions for me. Like you said, it's like I'm in a couple of years, I'll probably be at a soccer game too. And it might be a little bit boring at times, but I like what you said. If you can stick through that boredom at times, that's where like those special moments come. And yeah, that's definitely impactful for me. So you said y'all are the only product designed for families. I mean, I feel like there's so much out there trying to draw us more and more into screen time, you know? So y'all are really like one of the only ones, or the only one?
Yeah, and it's just, and when we say, and it is just for families, there are other great companies out there doing awesome things around this, but it's to us, it's people kind of nibbling around the edges. It could be it could be app restrictions. We're not a restrictive platform. There are others that are doing it just for personal focus, for example. But for us, we believe that it begins at home. It begins with the family. So what we're trying to do is build up a good relationship with your phone. We have a core belief that when you change your relationship with your phone, you change your relationship with the most important people around you. Your most important relationships change. So let's say that one more time. You change your relationship with your phone, and you change your relationship with everyone around you. And here's why that's important, because we have a relationship right now with our phone. And again, this is, as I started with the story and the soccer story, this is all a result of our own personal shortcomings in this area. This was something we designed for ourselves. And then we said, okay, if this will help our families, Heath said, hey, if we can solve this for our families, I bet you we can solve it for a lot of other families. So it all begins at home. And we think that if people can not just put down their phones, there's nothing really exciting or inspirational about putting down your phone. What's exciting and inspirational is what happens on the other side of that, and the cool opportunity that we have as families to really get this right. Now, the way people are going about it right now when they approach this topic is it's really generally towards, because we see all these stats around what's happening with teenagers right now. Teenage unhappiness at an all-time high. It happens to coincide that teenage unhappiness spike began about 15 years ago, about when the iPhone became ubiquitous. And it's not because, I believe it's largely, and I don't want to be too reductive, but it's not because kids were using phones so much at that time. I believe it's because parents were on their phones, and instead of looking at our kids' eyes, we just began looking at screens. And that does, and there's study after study after study, with your daughter right now, how valuable and important eye contact in the infancy stage. It's so critical. And so what has happened in the last 15 years is we've taken that child's natural need for eye contact and connection, and we've inserted a screen in between those two things, an unnatural thing. And our kids don't know what to do about it. And frankly, they're really upset about it. And so unhappiness and even anger, you see, especially with boys, anger and lashing out. Anger is a secondary emotion. So what they're not feeling angry. They're feeling sad. They're feeling neglected. They're feeling ignored. And that makes them feel really, and so all of a sudden boys are lashing out in anger, and then girls are going back and they're looking for solace in social media. And so it begins with us as parents. And if we can begin to model this relationship well, then we will not only change our relationship and our marriages and our spouses, and there are tons of stats on that, but we'll change our relationship with our kids from a very, very young age, even before we see the fruit of it. This is another reason why we don't, the reason why you may go work out is you see some change in your body, right? Well, relationships are a little bit different. You're planting seeds that you may not harvest for years, decades even. And so if we can get this right and we begin to model this good relationship, we can go into what a good relationship means. But if we can model this good relationship with our phones, we're changing the relationship with our kids, but we're also changing the trajectory of their futures, which is, I don't know if there's anything that could motivate a parent more than to say, I'm creating a good future for my kids. Because think about it, and you'll as you grow as a dad, you'll see this. As parents, we spend extraordinary amounts of time and money to build a better future for our kids. Language lessons, violin lessons, sports year round, tutors, all of those things. We spend all these, yet when it comes to our phones, we're just hoping that things go well. And it begins, if we can internalize it, and if anybody just shuts off the podcast from here, I want them to hear this. When it comes to technology, we have a lot of questions. When should I get my kid a phone? Should I let him be on social media? None of those questions matter until we answer one question. And that question is, am I, as a parent, modeling a relationship with my phone that I want my kids to mimic? Because I can promise you they are going to mimic exactly what you display to them in terms of your relationship with your phone. So, and if you can start early, holy crap, if you can start early where you are and just say, no, I'm going to make sure that Mary Collins sees my eyes more than she sees my eyes on a screen. Or I'm going to, whenever my phone, I'm going to step into the other room, or I'm going to wait in the car when I'm finishing up a call. I'm going to make sure that she knows that I'm fully there with her, because something amazing happens when you are looking at your child. Something amazing happens with your wife or your spouse when you put down your phone. The physical act of putting down your phone communicates to them that they're valuable. And what greater foundation do we want our kids to have when they encounter difficult things at school? Just to have a foundation of saying, like, I'm valuable, I matter, because I know, and this sounds simplistic, it sounds reductive, but because I know my dad loves me. You know why? Because he looks at me, because he talks to me, because when I talk, he's listening. All of that is absolutely transformational, not only for your family, for you individually, but if we can adopt this society, it literally will change the world.
Whew, this is good. I can't tell you how many times I've probably said this myself, but I've been talking to, a mom of like a middle schooler or a teenager. And, I know you're in the South too. I'm down here in Alabama, and I can hear it. Oh, kids these days on their phones and social media. And it's just like, well, according to you, and I agree, we modeled that for them. Maybe all the apps and everything that are out now weren't 10, 15 years ago, but it's so true. I think we need to look inward and say, that question that you ask is, what does the relationship look like? With my phone. So what is a good relationship with your phone?
That's well, I'll begin with the contrast of that, which is what does our current relationship look like? Our current relationship with our phones statistically is that, and this is basic, is that our phones are with us 24 hours a day. So 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day. We don't have to move our feet to reach our phones. So that's the beginning relationship we have. And by the way, anybody listening to this, I hope that people listening to this don't receive this with any shame or condemnation. This is not. These are just facts. And we're 15 years into a technology that is so compelling and so magnetizing that draws us into it. And we're at this point, here's the good thing, is we're entering into an awareness to say, oh, okay, there's something wrong with that. And this happens with everything, by the way. This happened with cigarettes. This happens with, all throughout any other technology where you start, okay, I understand how this is affecting me. Now I can make a change. So don't receive this with any kind of shame or condemnation. But 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day. That's one piece of it. The other piece in terms of the relationship is it's getting more and more common and acceptable to, in the middle of a conversation, if you and I were out to coffee, it would not be that abnormal while you're talking for me to pick up my phone and just take a glance at whether a quick thing on a text or even to begin texting somebody back. That's not abnormal now. And so that is something that's disrupting those relationships. And the consequence of that, Hampton, is I believe we have an intimacy crisis in America. And I'm not saying that in the, in a romantic way or physical or sexual way. I mean that just in terms of closeness, because if you and I were out to coffee and I were opening up to you and I was telling you, hey, here's what's going on with me, and you did that, what that would do for me is that would kill a moment of intimacy. Again, a closeness of sharing and commonality together. That would kill that moment. And so what would that do? That would say to me, I can't really open up to Hampton because I did last time. And so it kills the intimacy in that moment, but it kills future intimacy. Now that's, for a couple dudes that maybe that's fine. We do need male friendships, but where it becomes absolutely catastrophic is in our marriages, or when I'm
Mm.
talking with my daughter who's 13. Think about how hard it is for a 13-year-old girl to grow up in middle school right now. Think how hard it is to fight the comparison trap and what you see on social media. And so when she has a moment of safety, if she says to me, hey, Dad, can I talk to you? If I say yes, and then all of a sudden I look at my phone while she's opening up to me, she's not going to ever want to talk to me again. So my opportunity in that moment's gone, but that future intimacy, her just not consciously saying it, but just like the neuroplasticity in her brain will say, I can't really open up to Dad anymore. And that's tragic, but that's happening all across America. So the relationship with their phone, one, it's with us all the time. Two, and I'll make as a sub bullet of that, it's with us at our nightstands and it's disrupting our sleep, which by the way, the most effective form of torture after thousands of years of people torturing is sleep deprivation. And
Mm.
so the thing that will kill us is the fact, I mean, even if we just adjusted the relationship to account for sleep, that would be huge. And then the fact that we are so comfortable picking up our phones and interrupting in-person conversations for what's on a screen. So that's our current relationship. What we are encouraging, and I just want the listener to just get, I know that of course I want this. I want you to just accept what I'm about to say as factual and then try it. That's it. It's going to sound simple. It's going to seem reductive. I encourage people every day to spend some amount of time away from their phone. So join the 9% club, the 9% that spend some time away from their phone. Physical distance from you and your phone. One, we're not that important. One, the people don't need to reach us as much as we think they do. It's really true. Two, we're sacrificing basically what could be almost like a text that could come in for what is, which is the relationships around us. So spending that time away from your phone. And I encourage people to do it in a couple of different ways. One of them is determine sacred times and then sacred spaces. So what time is sacred when you can be away from your phone? The easiest one is mealtime. That's the easiest one. Whether it's a family dinner, whether it's going out, whatever it is putting some physical distance between you and your phone. Find that sacred time. Sacred space could be, hey, I don't have when in the living room, for example, we just don't have our phones. In the living room actually is an important one. That's the place where I think I'd be curious how many of us have watched a movie with somebody else with a second screen, how long that's been since we sat and watched a movie without having a second screen in our hands.
Yeah.
Which someone says, well, you're replacing a screen for a screen. No. This is an entirely different experience because you're sharing a common experience watching something together. So several years ago, my daughter, again, who's now 13, she was 9 or 10 at the time. We had just watched Harry Potter movie. She loved Harry Potter. And she turns to me after the movie and very matter of fact, she wasn't trying to create a moment. She just said this factually. She said, Daddy, did you know that's the first time we've ever watched a movie and you haven't had your phone?
Ooh, that's a gut punch.
It was a gut punch. It was a gut punch on one hand, but it was another thing like, dude, I can't wait to watch another movie because I'm never going to have my phone again when we watch the movie. It made me feel so good to think like, okay, I did something right. I've done a lot of things wrong, but I did something right. That's an amazing thing. The other thing in terms of the good relationship with your phone that I encourage people to do is be on the lookout, constantly, vigilantly looking out for cues to put your phone down. And a cue could look something like this. If my wife said, hey, can we talk about the family budget? Hey, can I talk to you about my day? So just that introduction, that's a very overt one. Can I talk to you? The other way it could be, the other cue could be is if my daughter walks in, throws her bag down and says, oh, social studies is so hard. That's a cue right there too. And what I encourage people to do is make sure the other person knows that you're going to go put your phone down. So let's play that out. My wife says, "Can we talk about the budget?" "Oh yeah, let me just go put my phone in the RO box. We have a physical place where you put your phone. Let me go put my phone in the RO box." You can make it more, you can dress it up more and take more, pat yourself harder on the back and say, "Yeah, but I want to be fully present. So I'm going to put my phone down." But just saying to them, "Yeah, let me go put my phone down." Because here's what that does. It's a signal to yourself, to your body. The physical act of putting your phone away from you is a signal to your body and yourself that, okay, I'm here. Sometimes I even like to say, you go back to the present. Sometimes I even like to say to myself something like, I know it sounds silly, but I'm talking with Hampton right now. That's a reminder to me where I am, what my intention is, exactly what I'm doing right now. So even saying to yourself what you're doing. So that's a physical sign. The second thing that it does is it signals to the other person that you're fully listening to them. So all of a sudden they kind of put their shoulders back and think, okay, no, we're actually talking. But the third thing it does, and I think this is the most important thing that it does, is it tells that person, I alluded to this earlier, it tells my wife, it tells my daughter, it tells my son, it tells you, it says, there are 8 billion people in the world who can theoretically reach me on my phone, and you are more important than every single one of them. Dude, what does that do
Mm-hmm.
to a 13-year-old? What message, if you hear that time after time after time after time, if you feel that again and again and again and again, back to that foundational sense of value, Gianna, my daughter, knows I'm important. Gianna knows if something goes wrong at school, that's okay because I know exactly who I am. And this goes, I mean, obviously there are, plenty of roots in faith for this as well, but just knowing that I am important, that I'm valuable. And when you put that thing down, that is the most valuable message. And it's silly too, Hampton, because we're always looking, as a society, we're always looking for levers, right? We're looking for levers. And what is a lever? A lever is something that requires minimal effort that has maximum effect, right? This is the greatest, I promise you, this is the greatest lever we have available to us right now. It requires so freaking little, and the outsized results you get from it are absolutely extraordinary.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense. I like the example you said about how, hey, there's 8 billion people who could
Yeah.
theoretically reach me right now, and you're more important than all of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think honestly, our phones and Amazon have probably taught us impatience, and we
Mm-hmm.
want like that immediate gratification.
Sure.
But it's probably hard because what you're talking about, you may not see the quote
Mm-hmm.
results for years or decades.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, I think that everyone listening to this and myself believes that what you're talking about is true, and
Yeah.
I think having boundaries or even practicing those cues or saying, "Hey, I'm going to go put my phone down in the RO box," probably
Yeah.
goes a long way. So I've been looking at it the whole time right behind you. Can you tell me what it
Yeah.
is? And I love how, guys, Joey, he's got an awesome product and everything, and you want to tell me the why, and I think we get it. But now I want to know, like, what is this thing?
I will give you that, but and the reason why, Hampton, is one, what everything I've just described, we've created the most effective tool in the world to help you do that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to begin with that whole idea, and whether somebody goes and joins RO or orders RO today is less relevant to me than them capturing the why for them, to seeing
Yeah.
the two paths, the path if you do this or if you don't. There are two paths there, and they're drastically different. And what I really want, so RO is a term, it's a Maori term. It means to notice and to turn towards, to take heed. That's what we want people to do. Whether you are technically an RO member, we want you to live a lifestyle of RO. This lifestyle of notice, of turning towards, taking heed, of listening to all those cues that are happening around you. And that could be the things that are happening inside of yourself, the feelings that you're feeling. I feel what is this thing? And taking a moment, undistracted, uninterrupted, to notice those things inside yourself. So what RO is a platform, very simply, that will make it easy to put down your phone, to spend time away from your phone. The way that we've gone to market is through the combination of a physical place, a beautiful box where you place your phone. And when you do that, it's beautiful, but it's tech packed. So we have, when you do that, it automatically connects to the RO app, and then it begins to quantify the amount of time that you're physically distant from your phone. So that technology, the seamless technology, we thought was very important. People aren't used to being away from their phone. When you drop your phone, it charges when it's in there. It's one, serves this beautiful visual cue. Atomic Habits is a book behind you, and this is based on the habit loop: cue, craving, response, reward. This visual cue of seeing something that reminds you of your intentions and the person that you want to be, that leads you to take an action. And in this case, it's dropping your phone. And then the reward piece of it is the culmination of all of that. And the app is built around this, pats on the back, and hey, you've achieved your time goal, and hey, you're competing with your family and all that kind of stuff. But the real reward that happens is what's on the other side of being away from your phone. It's not like, oh, I've just, spent 3 hours away from my phone today. I had a great glass of wine with my wife on the back porch. Gosh, I took a walk with my daughter and just looked at her and talked to her. And she's, for married Collins, she can't understand the words, but you're forming that connection. So that's the reward on the other side of it. So very simply, we've created a tech pack box where you place your phone that holds your phone, and it gamifies the experience of being away from it. So back to why that's important. So we get our Sunday screen time report every week from Apple that shows us how much time we've been on our phone. There's a difference between the presence of your phone and physical distance from your phone. So Dr. Maxie Heitmeyer at the London School of Economics says the only way to spend less time on your phone is for it to be physically distant and out of your visual field of sight. So it has to be away from you. And so that's what we're quantifying. How much time have you done that? If your phone's with you, and the science tells us when your phone's with you, your phone is calling out to you. You're anticipating things from your phone, even if you're not using it. When you see it, you're actually engaging with it still because you're anticipating what might be coming from it. And in fact, the people will say, oh, just silence your notifications. That's a good practice, to silence your notifications. That accounts for about 11% of our phone usage. Our phone calling to us accounts for 11% of it. We initiate our phone usage 89% of the time, which is a shocking stat. So you think, oh, I silenced my notifications. Good. But that's 11%. So don't delude yourself into thinking that like that creates a good relationship. So that's what we've done. And it's been, Hampton, it's been extraordinary to hear. And there was a woman on, and we had no idea this was happening. She posted a Facebook review of us last week or 2 weeks ago, and she has over 1 million followers. It was a great review on us. Again, we had no idea it was coming, but she said in her video, she said, "This silly little box has changed my life." And we love that because, yeah, of course it's silly. It's the most ridiculous thing ever that we need a box for, but there is power in doing that. And it's almost silly in the same way that belonging to a gym is silly. Did you know? I mean, we can burn calories for free. You knew that, right? I mean, we can build muscle for free. We can do push-ups on our own. We can run on our own. But most of us belong to gyms because we need help removing the friction of doing something difficult but valuable. Exercise is important enough that I'm going to I need some skin in the game. I need someone to help me with my programming. I need to know what to do. I need some people to do with. So you have the accountability there. You have the community around it. And that's all that belonging to a gym does for you, is it gives you help removing the friction of doing that difficult thing that's so valuable.
Wow. I mean, this is amazing. I am extremely intrigued, and I have a million more questions for you. But I know we got to run, but listener right now, look up RO. I mean, take some action on this. And I love what you said. I love that you started with the why, because if you just buy the box without believing the stuff that you're talking about, like, it's not going to work. The silly little box only works, if you believe, what you're talking about. And I believe you. And I definitely have some stuff to think about. So thank you for teaching me what you did. And this podcast is called Wake Up and Lead. And honestly, I think like the wake up moment for all of us is to like wake up, get off your phone, lead yourself, lead your family, lead the people around you. And so I like to have my guests tell people to wake up and lead. So I usually say it's time for you and me, and then you say to wake up and lead. Can we do that?
Heck yeah.
All right, it's time for you and me
to wake up and lead.
There we go.